Jai Matara, Jai Kamakya, Jai Bhairava. Today I've come to give you some more updates on the Tarapith related video that I had made. So we are in the process of making certain things that we will be offering to Matara. There is a silver mukut that we are making. There is a khadga, just like the original khadga of Matara, but made of silver. A trishul, mundamala made of silver, a khappar in which uh, certain offerings are to be provided. Along with that, there's a lot of things of shringar that will be offered to her. In addition to this, there is an extensive Annadanam that is going on for Matara, uh, and also the other deities that we worship collectively. It is started on the Purnima Tithi of last month and is continuing in multiple cities done by our volunteers. These volunteers are actually people who have been worshipping both Bhagavan Bhairava as well as some of the Mahavidyas and the Devi forms which are connected to the Kamakya Bhairav Pasak Foundation, and they have been doing the sadhanas for more than 1 to 2 years now almost. So these are the people who are helping out as volunteers in different cities to organize the Annadanam. Uh, as of now, it is being done in Chennai, in Delhi, in Mumbai, Jalandhar, Calcutta, and other Kashi, and also other various places that will be included, Hyderabad. So it's an ongoing process, and we will continue doing this at least till the end of this month, and hopefully also next year. This will be extending henceforth as a very regular part of the Devata sadhana that we do. And these Annadanams are separate from the monthly Annadanams that we anyway do to the Ved Pathshalas. And we have been doing for over a year now. Every Ashtami Tithi, we do Annadanam in Veda Pathshalas in the name of Bhagavan Bhairava, and also on the Shashti Tithis uh, as a means of pleasing Bhagavan Kartikeya. Why these deities? That is because we are about to enter a certain phase, a certain time in the history of India, of this land, that is going to be extremely intense. There's going to be heavy amount of karmic burning. Things will not be smooth next year onwards for many people. And in these difficult times, the only way to go forth is to do intense upasana, and especially of very fierce forms of the deities. These forms have been given to us by the Rishis for a very long time, and while they may not be completely mainstream in the way that Soumya Rupas of Devatas are, but there is a purpose why these deities exist, and not only as very niche Devatas of certain Upasakas, but we are entering a time when their energies will be required at a mass scale for protection of Dharma. So, with this idea in mind, we are making a offering, as I had mentioned, at the Tarapith temple, uh, of these things to Matara: the mukut, a trishula of silver, a khadga of silver, uh, a mundamala of silver, a khappar of silver. Along with it, there's going to be extensive shringar related items. There will be specific pujas that will be done. And before these are offered, there will be a lot of mantra sadhana and other activities that will be performed on them before we do the offerings. So, all that is already started. In fact, the mantra sadhana has already been started, and especially in the names of the people who have made any contribution for this. As I had mentioned in the previous post, contributing is not compulsory at all, it's entirely voluntary. What is more important is that, in general, if you connect to the mantra that I had mentioned of Ma Tara and keep focusing on her and keep doing her sadhana in this period to the best of your ability, that itself is a very powerful thing. lot of people have various misconceptions about tantric deities. So Tara is the second among the Mahavidyas, thus Mahavidyas. Of all forms of Shakti Upasana, the most intense and the most vibrant and the most powerful forms are these Mahavidyas. Each of them, each one of them. Start with Kali, Tara, Tripur Sundari, Bhairavi, Bhuvaneshwari, Chinnamasta, Baglamukhi, Dhumavati, Matangi, Kamalatmika. Each one of them manifests a um, tremendous peak experience, a peak uh, power in certain realms of this material world, both the spiritual world as well as the material world. So they have, these are great goddesses of the spiritual world, but also in this material planes, they have a certain specific manifestation. So when a upasak approaches them with the right bhava, in the right sense, and the right sadhana, they bring about a transformation in the sadhak, and along with the transformation, they can transform the environment around the upasana. So there is absolutely no doubt that perhaps in the whole gamut of mantra shastra that we have, tantric mantra shastras, and so far as I am concerned, even the Vedic mantra shastras, there is perhaps no set of mantras as intense, as brilliant, as effective as the Mahavidyas. The only thing that is perhaps more intense than the Mahavidya mantra krama is the mantra which invokes their astras, the weapons of the deities. That is another rare thing. We don't need to go into that at the moment. But the Mahavidyas are absolutely powerful, real, and not just that, they transcend, they are the forms of the Divine Mother. As the Mahavidyas are the most important thing in this era that we live in. They are very fast. Uh, their upasana gives you bhukti, both bhoga and moksha both, as well as helps the soul to transcend the various ignorances of this world that we live in, the various karmic bindings that we have, in order that we can overcome them and reach to the higher realms of what we call liberation, enlightenment, moksha, etc., etc., all those high states. So that is the beauty of uh, the Mahavidya sadhanas. In fact, for a very long time, there used to be a lot of people, great upasakas, who may have a certain philosophical orientation towards some form of Vedanta, maybe Advaita, maybe something else, whatever. But the actual upasana that they were doing of these Mahavidyas, especially this was the case in eastern part of India, where in a way, the Mahavidya sadhanas originated and then spread to other parts because they're so intense and so terrific. So, of these Mahavidyas, Tara is the second among them. Tara, as the word signifies, in fact, and I've mentioned this in other videos as well, in I think podcasts and other places. So there is a very famous story that comes to us that Rishi Vashishta had tried to worship Matara for a long time in Kamakhya, using the Vedachara method of Upasana, and there was no success. So then he became very angry and he was about to curse the Mahavidya when Lord Brahma, and in some books it is mentioned as Tara herself, comes, and there is a Deivavani, there is a a divine voice from the skies, and it tells Rishi Vashishta that you did not succeed because your method of worship was not correct. So he goes to Mahachina, which is perhaps somewhere in Tibet and those areas, and he finds the right krama of upasana, and in which there is the introduction of the Panchatatvas or Panchamakara sadhana, that is called the offerings, five types of offerings that are given in Tantra Upasana of Devi in Kolachara. He learns the methodology of that worship, the meaning of that worship, the philosophy behind that worship. And then from there he comes to Tarapith, and there he does the sadhana and succeeds in manifesting, in having a direct vision of the goddess Mahavidya Tara. But This form was so tremendously powerful and perhaps even dangerous, even for a rishi of his caliber. He tells her that people in Kali Yuga will not be able to worship this kind of a form, this intensity of the form. So, out of her own kindness, Ma Tara, she imprints her energy on a stone in the cremation ground. So, Tarapith used to be a cremation ground at one point. Today, you will find innumerable lodges and hotels, and as it happens, in this era. But long back, it used to be a cremation ground, and that energy gets imprinted on a stone, and that iconography is that of a woman breastfeeding a child. So this iconography, this imprint gets on a stone, and that stone is known as the Brahmashila, or that's Brahmashila is what is kept inside the Garbhagriha in Tarapit. And on top of that, you have a mask of silver of Matara. So this iconography is very, very beautiful and very significant spiritually. Significant because it shows that Bhagavati Tara, Tara means one who can help you cross over. Cross over from what? Cross over from life, cross over from difficulties, cross over from any kind of trouble in the world, anything and everything. She is the force that helps an individual cross over those troubles, cross over a difficult ocean of troubles, and reach the shore. That is her special capacity. So, in a way, it is like Tara. Also, we know that in common parlance, we know that Tara represents stars, right? So, when a sailor goes in a boat or on a ship in the ocean and it's absolutely dark in olden times, when you perhaps did not have a GPS or any kind of advanced technological devices, the only way you can know that which direction you have to go, only guidance is to come from Tara. So in a way, inside Ma Tara, there is the element of guiding people into the right direction. That is also a reason why Tara is known as the Adhishtatri Devi of Brihaspati Graha. So whenever there are intense problems related to Jupiter, Brihaspati, one of the ways of overcoming those problems, among many other ways, is the worship and the stuti and the bhakti of Matara. So this is a very specific method which is followed in Eastern India, especially where the Mahavidya Upasana is very strong. So when people have Jupiter related issues, you can worship Matara. Some relief is possible. But apart from Graha dosha and all that, the main purpose of Tara Upasana is that she can liberate a soul from the trappings of whole life. Because everything in life, the average human life is based on ignorance. There is no knowledge, there is no spiritual knowledge, there is no light. It's like a whole cremation ground because any moment anybody can die anywhere. That itself is the very definition of a cremation ground. So, inside that cremation ground, there is this force, this light that guides an individual into the right direction. That itself is Tara. And this thing is best captured in the iconography where the small child is also Shiva, that is, she has on her lap. But this is what type of Shiva? It is not Shiva, Mahadeva of the infinite forms of the heavenly realms and beyond, but this is the Shiva who has become Jiva by coming down to this plane. The moment Shiva takes birth here, the Jiva, the Paramatma takes birth in the form of the Jivatma in this plane. Immediately it is surrounded by layers and layers of ignorance, of Maya, or whatever terminology you want to use. Complete ignorance, doesn't know which is left and which is right, and is driven by the pashas and the greed and selfishness and jealousy and various other human emotions, standard things, and all that. And driven by these, every activity, every karma that is performed becomes a binding on them. So they can't escape. So every time something is performed, it comes back with a double, triple force, and then the cycle of life goes on, birth and rebirth continuously. In this kind of a trapping, this kind of an environment, Tara is that force of the Divine Mother, that form of the Mother who, if she is worshipped carefully, helps to pull the soul from that state of ignorance into its full realization of the divine state. At the highest formation, Tara is like a Mahashunya. It's absolute, indescribable state. Mahashunya does not mean emptiness. It means deep inside there is also a throbbing pulsating power in the form of a seed of every possibility in the universe, everything that can be thought, everything that cannot be thought, everything that is beyond the capacity of the mind to capture. All of it is inside that Mahashunya state in very minute, like seeds, like germination points, something like that. It's difficult to explain, something to experience. In the iconography of Ma Tara that we see, you will often find in the traditional iconography, and there are many dhyana mantras, by the way. There are some differences in the dhyana mantras. All of them are correct. But more or less, you will see that she has of the three forms. Ugra Tara, Ugra means fierce. So she's a fierce form of Tara. Uh, she's very akin to Mahakali. That type of ferocity is there. She's a deity of the cremation grounds. In her hands, she holds four things. One is you will have the kharga in her hand. Then you will have the scissors. Then you will have a blue lotus, Neela Padma, and there's a kappar, skull. Of these, the most interesting things is that having the scissors in a hand or the kattari or something to cut, basically. One of the typical things that Mahatara can do is cut off situations and anything around you that needs to go. I have experienced this many times in my life when I've intensified Tara Upasana. She will cut off things that are not needed or that are holding you back. Very interestingly, human life is such that Sri Aurobindo used to say that the greatest puzzle of human birth is that every soul wants to be free, but we are also in love with our chains. So it's like a chain that surrounds people, each one of us. But what is necessary to get out of the chain is the activity that we stop ourselves from doing. When Ma Tara's energy is activated, one of the things, and if you do it in the spiritual sense, that is, if you really want to go high in sadhana, then she will ensure that whatever is blocking you, and even things that are kept hidden from your consciousness, she is going to remove those first and foremost among all things. Then that skull that she holds, the khappar, that is very, very intense, beautiful. In that khappar, there is blood. Why that blood? Because blood is one of the things inside the human body that carries maximum amount of prana shakti. Maximum prana shakti. So when she takes the blood in the khappar, what she does spiritually is to cause a cleansing of the prana, because through these prana shaktis, through the flow of blood, through the pranas, spiritually speaking, not medically speaking, spiritually speaking, it is here that the maximum amount of karmic depth, the karmas, what we inherit from our past actions, are embedded inside these. So once she purifies this, the individual becomes free from the effect of the karmas that he or she might have performed in past, and that is when you are able to go forward. And how do you go forward? Then it comes the Neela Padma, the blue lotus. That blue lotus is a sign of Mahapragya. That is not just normal wisdom, that is extraordinary spontaneous knowledge. So normal wisdom is the jnana that you will, the panditya, the jnana that you will attain if you read a lot of books and you have a traditional training and you know Sanskrit and you know the Vedas and the Vedanga and the other grammar and texts and things like that. That is the traditional knowledge. It's wonderful. But there's a knowledge, a wisdom that comes even beyond that. That is called the Mahapragya. That is a very spontaneous, intuitive, luminous knowledge inside the human mind that comes to an upasaka only when he has crossed the stages of pragya, when he has gone beyond, when the mind has gone beyond the normal condition of taking in, the knowledge that is there in the world, something beyond that, something that is, for lack of better words, we call, say, nirvana, enlightenment, moksha, mukti, या जो भी आपको बोलना है. That state has an ethereal light, has a light means it's not just switching on a tube light or something. No, the term light, when it's used in spirituality, it means prakash, it means illumination. When you have light, then you have knowledge. Light's property is wisdom, knowledge. You see, you understand immediately. You don't have to go through the process of reasoning. The reasoning mind is wonderful, but the reasoning mind governs the world. Beyond the reasoning mind, there is something called the land of intuition. The mind becomes very supple, and there are sights and sounds, and there are knowledges that cannot be easily described. It is in that realm and the highest stages of that realm that the that is represented by that blue lotus that she holds in her hand. And this whole setting is a cremation ground. She is often depicted standing on a dead body, sometimes on a burning pyre, because the whole world is a cremation ground. At any moment, whenever one is born, whatever be his philosophy, whatever be his male, female, gotra, language, caste, nothing matters. The only thing that is absolutely sanguine is death. 100% there is going to be death to every individual at some point or the other. Death has happened to avatars, what to speak of ordinary people. So, therefore, in a way, the whole world is a smashan. Whole Brahmanda is a smashan. The whole earth is a smashan. And in that, Tara is that force of the Divine Mother which picks up the ignorant soul, ignorant and egoistic, because souls are egoistic. So your ego gets attached to wrong ideas. So that is when she cuts off those ideas, she cuts off the situation, she clears the path of the Upasaka so that he or she can go forward towards a greater enlightenment and wisdom. So, this is the larger philosophy. But even on a very rational and a lesser scale, suppose someone is not doing the sadhana for moksha, which is quite possible, because moksha and liberation are very high order things, and you cannot enter into that until all the other karmas and the other desires are kind of squared off and fulfilled in life. One of the best things about Mahatara Upasana, there are two aspects to it. One is the actual mantra sadhana of Mahatara, which is a Panchakshari mantra, is there. And there are many others, Saptakshari, and multiple amount of mantras are there in the Tantric texts. Those require a little steadiness and guidance. Mahatara's Bhairava is known as Akshobhya. He is represented as a snake on a head. That snake is Akshobhya. Akshobhya means one who is unshakable. That is a property that has to come into the Upasaka when entering into very intense mantra sadhana of Mahatara. Of course, the tradition says that you need to have a tantric diksha, no doubt, but even that is not a guarantee that you will be able to survive the impact of the mantra once somebody starts doing very intense Vija mantras of Mahatara, those specific Vijas, those sadhanas of Mahatara. But at the same time, it's not impossible also. If one develops the depth, the steadiness, and this is what is called as Adhara Shakti, and that is where Lord Bhairava becomes so important. Because once you worship Bhairava, he creates the steadiness in the mind and body, and on that platform, you have the competency to worship almost any Mahavidya, including Matara. So once that steadiness comes in, then you do the sadhana, and it causes very fast reactions, effects to the Upasaka. She is undoubtedly one of the fastest rescuers of people from trouble. If you have faith on her, if your faith is very solid on her, Shraddha is very solid on her, if your faith is solid on her, she is going to rescue you from any kind of trouble. That is her specialty of Matara. Any kind of trouble is there. For the Upasaka, she can move things in a way that is unthinkable, unimaginable, at the speed at which she does this. That is also represented by she's represented as Praktali Pada, which is she stands at a particular posture. That posture is often taken by, in olden times specifically, those was taken by archers when they're shooting an arrow. And that posture basically represents that somebody, when the arrow has been shot out of the bow, the body stands in a specific format because of the recoil, or a little bit of the recoil. So that posture is ingrained inside Tara, which basically means that she's somebody whose rescue has already started off for the Upasaka even before the Upasaka calls for help. She's that fast. Indeed, she's absolutely fast for a sadhak who connects to her properly with strong faith. Many people outside have various misconceptions about Tara Sadhana. It's She's a difficult deity and this and that. I think that large part of it is misplaced, and specifically these misplaced notions are held by people. I don't know how much sadhana they've actually done of any deity, to be honest, because everybody today has some of the other gyan on everything, regardless of what is their actual depth and experience in these things. Is there a threat in Tara sadhana? Mostly very less. That is only if you are doing very complicated mantras of Matara, or if you are going to the cremation ground and doing. But those are not for grihasthas at the normal stage. I do not recommend that for anybody. On the other hand, there are many people over years whom I have recommended simpler upasanas of Matara to get over certain problems. And invariably, if you continue for 6 months to a year, you will see very positive changes and orientations that happen. Inside Tara, there is also the Shakti of Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati. So, in a way, these aspects, for example, there is Mahalakshmi is something, is a force that nourishes you. It's not just money, but anything that nourishes the Upasaka, that helps him to survive, that sustenance, that is the word. It could be in terms of wealth, it could be food, it could be anything, or it could be just general sense of happiness inside. All these things can also be given by Matara. In fact, one of the typical things when Matara's blessing comes to an Upasaka sometimes is a tremendous amount of sudden upsurge of wealth out of the blue. It is a very typical thing that happens. Suppose specifically for those people who may be suffering from some kind of genuine uh, financial issues or something like that, there will be an out of the blue upsurge of wealth and multiple orders of the amount that one may need. That's a very typical way in which she manifests herself, provided the upasaka actually wants it. There may be people who are very detached, who have no desire for wealth. They may be poor, but they may not desire wealth. Then that is not what she will give you. But all these things are provided you continue the sadhana and simple sadhanas. As I mentioned. So it becomes complicated when you are doing certain specific vijas, or somebody does it in the cremation ground and all those. So those are offbeat things. Those should not be tried by ordinary people. Anyway, cremation ground sadhanas are not meant for everybody. It requires a lot of caution and various other things. On the other hand, chanting Ashtottara Nama of Tara or even simple Nama mantras of Tara are perfectly legitimate sadhanas that bring almost 95% time. If somebody continues with that sadhana for a few months, you are bound to see positive developments in your life. A reorientation of life towards a greater, both material and spiritual redirection that I have seen so many times by now, especially when I used to do more Jyotish related readings. Nowadays, I don't get time and I don't do. But when I used to do that in certain combinations, in certain very complicated cases, when I had recommended Tara Upasana, it had produced marvelous results, marvelous. So here is the thing, there is some degree of caution, but all that is already taken care of when specifically in the last video when I had mentioned certain simple mantra of Matara. That mantra can be done by anybody. And when you do that mantra, all you have to do is imagine yourself, keep a photo of Matara of Tarapith, and you imagine herself as a very as a light inside your in your heart. The placement of the devatas is inside the depth of the human heart. That is the purest part in the whole body. Rest is mostly biology and automation, and something that you attain through evolution. But it is there in the depth of the heart, which is the right seat, which is the right kind of. There's a fire that burns there. It's like a homa that is, and like a dhuni that doesn't ever, ever get lost. Inside that, one has to place the deities, and once that is done, then you will see that there is a tremendous growth, a happiness, a natural spontaneous joy and happiness in life that comes apart from his tremendous guidance and protection of the deity that comes. So you should not have any apprehension about doing the Tara sadhana and also the Ashtottara Nama of Matara, because those are very good things to do. And not only that, if somebody continues that sadhanas, they are pretty much sure to receive a lot of blessings of the deity, blessings of Matara. And she's one of those deities, as I mentioned, who can help you in the most difficult of situations. So continue that. Meanwhile, me and some of the people I guide together, we are doing Tara mantras and Tara sadhanas on those offerings that we will be making. Uh, Towards the next, at least till the next Amavasya Tithi, minimum this Tara mantra, those who have started off should continue doing that. And around that Amavasya Tithi, try and light a diya in your home in the name of Matara if you are continuing these sadhanas. So that itself will help you mentally to connect to the mother when these offerings are being made. Uh, Apart from that, also continue with the other sadhanas, and I will be making few more videos on certain Mahavidya related sadhanas. So these are not, I will not be making videos with respect to prayogas and all that. Those prayogas actually are things, I mean, this is very common today. Every second person will tell you that you do this and this is a prayoga. Prayoga is a thing that should be done at the end. Your first aim of approaching the tantric deities is your self development and for dharma. Yes, we need to invoke Matara because, as I mentioned right at the beginning, that we will be entering very tough times from next year, and we will need the blessings and the power of the most fierce of the tantric deities to be activated in this land in order to protect Dharma, protect Hindus, and also going ahead to ensure that the Shakta Dharma, the worship of Shakti in its true format, should remain as it is without being tampered by cross currents of other opinions of people who are not Shaktas. That is very important to remember because every now and then I find some of the other, some Baba here and somebody there giving opinions on Shakta deities who himself has not had much sadhana of this path. But then, as I say, giving gyan is easy. Even if you have not experienced anything or not done, not walked that path, still there are people who give all sorts of advices that dilutes the force of actual Shakti Upasana because there is a path of the Divine Mother, there's a path of Shakti, there's a path of the Mahavidyas, and these come to us from the Tantras. Those are the only and the most authentic of the scriptures. It is through the Vidhan in the Tantras that the worship is to be done. It is through the Tantras that we have the mantras like, for example, the Navana and all that is so popular across India these days in the Navratras, etc. So that Vidhan has to be followed. That methodology of worship has to be done. Whatever is said, if the Panchatattva is to be given to Tara, then it is to be given. Yes, one. So let me clarify another thing. There's a typical uh, question that comes in here that can Ma Tara be worshipped in the Sattvic manner? Yes, you can worship. In fact, uh, as the basic blessing of the mother that I mentioned, just doing that Ashtottara Nama, offering a little bit of bhog, naivedyam, normal sweets or anything of fruits, uh, doing that simple mantra that I mentioned in the previous video. Those are all sattvic ways of worship. Question is, if you have to attain complete perfection in Tara Upasana, maximum state of communion with Ugra Tara, is it enough to worship in the sattvic manner? Perhaps no. At one point or the other, when great depths are reached in sadhana, then it is not your will, your ideas, your likings, dislikings. These are irrelevant. What the deity asks of you, that has to be done. And that is where you will see all the vidhanam that is given in the tantras. They all of them apply. I know people who are of that state, who themselves of their own are complete vegetarians. But their state is so high, their communion with the deity is so high that when they are worshipping, they will offer the Panchatattva to the deity as it is. Because the worship is not about you, it is about the devata. Or us state mein, in that depth of sadhana, your mind is so transformed, the mind of the upasaka. There is no question of my will versus your will. No. It is only her will that will work when somebody reaches that state. So when she demands something, you have to give it to her. At the initial stages, all this is fine. Initial stages, when you do in a sattvic manner, you will get some blessings. And those blessings are very powerful, by the way. I mean, I have at various points suggested Tara Upasana, simple Tara Upasana, just like this, to people for certain problems. And eventually they were able to get out of the problem There was a lot of development, materialistically, spiritually. There was a new orientation in their life. All that blessings you will definitely get from Matara. But if you want Siddhi of Tara, and you want Siddhi of the main form of Matara, which is Ugra Tara, or Ekajata Tara, or even Neela Saraswati, and perfect Siddhi of the goddess, because these are, at the end of the day, if you reach that 90%, so imagine that getting Siddhi means 0 to 100. In the method that I am explaining in the videos, the Sattvic method, if you are very good Upasaka, you can reach 50, 60% of the path. That itself is a huge thing, by the way. The blessings that you can get can carry forward in a whole lifetime. But somebody, if he is destined to reach 90% of the path, then you will be forced, because after a point, the human mind will not work. Your will does not exist. The Upasaka has no will. It is only her will. It is only she who will get the sadhana done. At one point, she enters into the body of the Upasaka and makes the Upasaka do sadhana. It is no more, you do not have a control over the process. There is no question of, I want to do this and I don't want to do this. At that state, you do not exist. It is only she. She is the one. That is a form of Advaita. She enters into the Upasaka. She is the one who utters the mantra. She is the one who does the sadhana. She is the one who also is the final goal of the sadhana. All these are one. Eventually. And that is not just a statement, that's a realization that comes to the sadhaka. And in that state, whatever she says, if she says that meat has to be offered, meat has to be offered. If she says that karan has to be offered, karan has to be offered. There is no, if you have that I sense still existing, if a sadhaka has, nahi, mere ko ye karna nahi hai, mujhe acha nahi lagta, if I exists, that means you have not reached that height in sadhana. That's as simple as that. Either she will be there or you will be there. But these are only extreme states, I'm saying. Extreme states are not easy to reach. Of perhaps thousands of people who do Matara sadhana, few may be able to reach, and that is also blessed, depending on the blessings that they have from past lives and the blessings of Matara herself. If it is destined, they will. But for rest of us, even simple sadhanas of Tara are quite fine, and that brings some transformative changes in the person's life. I hope that this clears a lot of confusion that some people may have. And I also hope that those who are doing the mantra sadhana, the Ashtottara Nama, they continue with this, because it is going to bring a lot of benefits, a lot of changes, a lot of positive developments into your life. And especially in the coming year, everybody of us will need this, because the years are going to be difficult. The times are changing. That's all. Jai Matara.